Hi guys. All right, today is Tuesday and let me go down here. So in math today we were reviewing how to use strip diagrams, and that is in Seesaw. So if you go over here to activities and you go all the way down to week 20 for math, it's this one right here. So let me go ahead, let me see if I have one saved. Yep. They shut off the air. They said it's time to go. Alrighty, so we did the story problem. We've got we used some very small numbers to start. So we started off and we built a strip diagram with this story problem. So it's just 20 kids in Miss Snyder's class. There's 4 equal reading groups. How many groups are in each class? So we used, and I'm not going to cut it all out, but we used some construction paper and we cut this out. And so we had one piece that was our total. So this whole thing was the total. And then we had the other piece, which was the same size, and it was cut into 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. And so we filled in information that we knew. We knew there were 20 kids in my class, and we knew that there were 4 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we have 20 kids and we put 20 beans up here, we practice taking those and putting 1 in each box. So there's my group of 4. And then, okay, so if I have a group of 4 here and I pull out another 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's 2 groups of 4 that I was able to take. And so once I do it all, in each of the boxes, we were able to have 5 kids in each group. So 20 kids total. Each group has 5 because 5, 10, 15, 20. So 5 is how many go into each group. So this was just a real quick review with some small numbers that we could easily do with the beans, just to show that with division, you're starting with that total, and you're either going to have the number of groups like we started, and the part that's missing is this number inside, or you're going to start with your total, and you know that each group has 5 kids, but you're not sure how many groups you can make. So you count, okay, there's 5. Okay, I can make another one. That's 10. I can make another one. That's 15. I can make another one. That's 20. Okay, so either you're doing 20 divided by 4 equals 5, or 20 divided by 5 equals 4. Either way, your strip diagrams are going to look very similar, and you're going to get that same, where you're starting with the total and then you're repeatedly taking out those groups and getting your answer that away. So we did that, and then kids, they did their diagram here, took a picture of what they did and uploaded it there. And then we did a problem with a little bit larger numbers. So the same thing that we did with the 20, where we started with the total and we pulled out those groups. It doesn't matter how big our number is, it's the same process. So here we have a combined weight of 2,090 pounds. We're talking about these 5 llamas at the zoo. So here's my total, 2,090. And then each one of these boxes represents one of the llamas. Well, if we add up all of their weights, they're going to give us this total. So in order to find out how much one of them is, we had to divide this by 5. So we took 2,000, let me write down these numbers real quick. 2,090 divided by 5. All right, so the way that we did that is we built our box. 5 cannot, if I have 5, I can't make any groups here because I only have 2. So that's 0 groups. 0 times 5 is 0. Subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. Bring that 2 up. Now I've got 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. That's 4 groups. Multiply that. Get 20. 20 minus 20 is 0. If I have nothing, there's nothing to pull up. One group of 5 can go into 9 because 2 would be 10. That'd be too many. 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract, I get 4. And then I'm going to bring that 4 up and make this a 40. 5 times 8, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 goes perfectly. And so my answer is 418. So each of those llamas weighed 418 pounds. I can check this to make sure I divided correctly by taking 418, multiplying it by 5. So here I'm going to make my 400 plus 10 plus 8 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20 with 2 zeros. 10 times 5 is 50. 8 times 5 is 40. And here we've got 2,050 and 40 makes 90. So that's 2,090. So if I get this right here, if I get this number right here that matches that number that I started with for my total, then I know that I divided correctly. All right, so we did that together, and then students did this for independent work. So they have 2 problems here, and that was their independent work for the day. So, I didn't mean to check that. Oops. All right, for reading, or let me stick with math. So after you did your page 3, make sure, I want you doing at least 15 minutes of math each day, 15 minutes of reading on ESpark. So make sure you did that. And then there's extra practice games on the Google Classroom. And apparently I had the date wrong, so I had to go in and change the date. So if it wasn't working today, it's up and running now. So there's just some extra practice games you can click on here, and that should be working now that I changed the date. All right. For groups, we met and we went over, we're still working on these questions, 376 to 378. So we did some multi-step problems there for practice in our small groups. And then for reading today, we wrapped up talking about theme. And then tomorrow we're going to get in and we'll start talking more about author's purpose. So with theme, we read a story today about a boy named Carl, and we were trying to think about what the author was trying to teach us through Carl's story. So we were finding some evidence. So that is in Seesaw as well. So let me go down here. All right, reading whole group lessons. So here, all right, so theme, we reviewed, this is some things that we went over last week. We reviewed that theme is a lesson. It's not the main idea or the summary. It's not the topic. It's that lesson that you learn through what's going on with these characters. So your characters have some kind of, thing in it, that event that happens, and through their actions, you're learning some kind of, life lesson that they have taught you. It's not stated, so it has to be inferred. So meaning you can't go to the text and you can't go and highlight the theme. It's not going to be something where you can go back to your text evidence and or your text and find that evidence. It's something that you just have to infer, and you just have to understand it from what information you gathered in the story. So here are some common ones you can look through there. And then here we read this story about Carl. There's some hidden little things over here that you can delete that green box, and there's some things under here that we talked about. So you can click to listen to the story here. I've already got it recorded. So we broke off into groups, and well, first we talked about connections. So after we read this, we had a lot of connections to, personal things where we've known people who have acted like this, or books that we've read. So as you're, once you finish reading, be thinking about, okay, how does this connect to other things that that I've read in the past or experienced myself, or maybe I've heard about. And then we broke off into breakout rooms, and we talked about the following. So we talked about what the author's trying to teach us, what ideas kind of stuck with us after we finished reading. And then we talked about our character, Carl, what he learned from all this. And, we talked about whether we thought that, was he going to continue to act like he was acting? Do we think he learned his lesson? Things like that. So then we came up with a theme, and that was what we did for that. And then so after we shared those, then we read the next chapter in our story about the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane. And then our small group and independent activities, we have new groups. So make sure if you were not present today that you get your new reading and math group. And there was an assignment from last week that several had not finished, so I moved it to this week. It's the sort, where you're deciding whether something is a theme or a main idea. So there's still 13 people that need to get that done, so make sure you're checking that. And then, so group C this week is going to be reading The Wizard of Oz. They're going to be recording themselves reading their pages, and they're doing some author research. So if you are in group C, you're going to go down to here. All right, so you're recording yourself. And then here are some library resources you can use to gather information. You want to make sure that when you gather information that you are putting things into your own words. So you may, read a story like this. This is a book on Epic about the author's life, and several. He's the author of several things, and has done all kinds of different stuff throughout his life. And so you read all about him, but you don't want to just, copy and paste exactly what he says. You want to make sure that you are taking that information and putting it in your own, you can still have the same topics and things like that, but you want to write it in your own words. You don't want to take someone else's and claim it as yours. So go through here. If you have to have a password or anything, I put those down below, and you should know your Epic one. And then I put these pages on here if you want some ideas of some things to research about. Then these white pages here can be used for that. If you want to create your own on Seesaw or Google Slides or something like that, you are more than welcome to. This was just to give you some ideas. Everybody, however, though, is going to use this timeline. So you can take this timeline and you can put it into your, you can copy it and put it into your Seesaw or Slides or something, but we want to make sure this is included in there. And then I made a suggested reading page here. So here's a schedule. So Tuesday, I recommended that you read page 3 to 5, and then so on. So that way you can split up a little bit each day. So again, you're just reading this story here. Then my other groups, A and B, you guys are, here comes the rain. You guys are doing the Gossip Monster. And so today, for the Gossip Monster, we kind of did a book walkthrough where we previewed the book. We talked about what does it mean when we say gossip. Several had, experiences where they've either heard it or they've been the victim of it or something. So we shared kind of what we know. And then we're going to use a strategy to help us better understand what we read called Make, Revise, and Confirm. So we made some predictions today. So on page 3, we previewed the front page, the back page, the pictures throughout, table of contents, and we made some predictions about what we think is going to happen in the story before we actually started reading it. Then once we're ready to start reading it, same thing with the last group. I kind of broke it down a little bit to where you have a little chunk each day to where you're recording yourself read. So this is just a suggestion. You can do your own as well, but we want to make sure that we are all recorded and ready to go by Friday. All right, so again, ESpark, I talked about that. All right, writing. In writing, that was in Seesaw. So go to your activities. Writing is here, week 20. So the first thing that we did was this week we're going to be talking about prepositions. So we talked about how prepositions can show location, movement, direction, time. Here's an example of all different types of prepositions and showing kind of, what they mean. And so these are words that we use all the time in our sentences, but probably didn't realize it. And so we did a little activity where we had to follow directions, and we had to really use those prepositions to help us create what this is supposed to be. So we all started off with this long rectangle and three smaller ones, and then we read this paragraph here. And as we got information, we added the drawing or added the information by drawing it onto our paper here. So then after we did that, we talked about like how did we know where to put things, when it says in between or in front of, or there's something underneath, or it's big or it's small, or how did those kind of help us put our drawing together. And then if you move the text and you move this blue box, the drawing of what it could look like is below. So you can kind of compare, just scoot that over and compare what you did with what was there. All right, so all of these yellow bluish papers, those are all about the prepositions. And then when you get into the darker blue, this is our composition section. So today we grabbed the prompt that we used last week because I wanted to work a little bit more on it. We had some fun confetti throw in here. We had some really good things. There it goes. We had some really great things that were just, I'm like, oh my gosh, our writing from the beginning of the year is just like so much improvement. So I'm really happy about the things in green here. So we are clearly stating our central idea. I don't remember reading anybody's paper who, I was confused about who your person was or anything like that. Spelling, capitalization, punctuation is looking a lot better. And then, choosing our words carefully, all of that is looking really good. So we had some, here we need one more. We had some good confetti throws for that. And then the organizing our writing, I put that in yellow because that's still kind of a work in progress. We're not quite as strong as I want to be. I want us to be. Some are really understanding that our paragraphs are going to have an introduction, either 2 to 3 body paragraphs, and then a conclusion. And so having a paper and just starting it off, giving your examples, and then just stopping and having no conclusion kind of it reminds me of a pirate ship and someone's walking the plank and they just you see them and they just drop. That kind of reminds me of that, because you're reading, you're getting all these explanations, and then it just stops and the reader's like, okay, I guess we're done. And so you want to make sure that you really have all of the parts, that everything's organized, everything's flowing, and from one idea is flowing into the next, and it's not just kind of sporadic and all over the place. And that that's something we need to keep working on. Some of us have got it, we're understanding, we're showing, we're rocking and rolling. Some of us are getting real close. So I put that in yellow. And then I put in red, developing our ideas and developing our ideas in detail. So this section right here, this is not a new thing for fourth grade. This is a every year type thing where we want to say our reason and we want to be done. We don't want to go into detail. Why? I don't know. It's if you want a high score, it's just something you got to do. So if you really want your reader to understand what you mean, it's just something you got to do. So when we explain, I'm seeing things like my person is important because they fought for civil rights, or my person is important because they really help the community. Well, how is that person fighting for civil rights? How is that person fighting for their community? You just stop cold and you don't go on to any more examples or facts or anything like that. And so your readers kind of left, wondering like, okay, well, you know, I I guess we're moving on to the next idea. And so we really want to add more. So just a reminder, the key parts from this prompt, we're picking, it says someone. So we're picking one person that's made the world a better place, and we're explaining why we think that person is important. So I kind of had two different groups. I had a good chunk that you wrote a rock solid, good 3-4 paper scored paper last week. Like I don't have a lot of suggestions. You got it. Like it looks good. So those people, I said, I want you to practice. I want you to not just sit back and do nothing all week. Let's pick another person and let's try it again and see if you could be that rock solid again, and discuss someone else. So the group that I told today, those people, I want you to think about a new person. Everybody else, two things. You either had a section in your paper that I wasn't feeling 100% confident of. I wanted you to go back and either revisit your conclusion. Maybe your conclusion was missing. Maybe you are one of those people that is the big time lack in the details, where you've got one sentence and then you moved on to the next reason why your person is important. So whatever it was, those people, I wanted you to hang on to your person. So whoever you chose last week, hang on to them, because we're going to keep powering through, and we're going to make that paper a 3 or 4 also. So today, this is my example here. So it says here that we can strengthen our body paragraphs of our paper by adding details. So let's feed those paragraphs. So feed stands for facts, examples, experiences, details. These are things that we can add to our body and that they can really help just give that kind of extra oomph that we really are missing from those that middle section of the body. Um, so today we practiced gathering facts. So we put our person's name in the middle, and so above it we wrote things that we knew already. And then we did a little bit of research. We went to Epic, we went to some of the library resources, and we searched for our person. We got some extra information, and things that we learned we added down here. So for like example, I knew that he was, I knew Martin Luther King was super, super smart, but I didn't know he was able to skip ninth and 12th grade and graduate when he was 15. So I added that information. So in my paper, I'm not going to say, he was smart. I'm going to give that example, that fact. Okay, he's smart. He's so smart that he was able to skip 2 grades and graduate at, several years earlier than most of his peers. So by having that, if I just say Martin Luther King was smart, that's good. But if I want to really sound like I know what I'm talking about, listen how much different this is when I add that in there about him skipping the grade levels, graduating early. Like I really sound like I know what I'm talking about. So we want to add those facts in to make it just that much stronger. And so when your reader reads your paper, they're like, oh, wow, like I understand now why she said that he was smart. I knew that he got arrested, but same thing. I didn't know it was nearly 30 times. So when I talk about that, like that's a fact that I can add in to again make that stand out as making it sound like I really know what I'm talking about, and making my reader also understand more what I'm talking about. And then here, I knew he got a Nobel Peace Prize. I did not know, so I added it down here that at 35, he was the youngest person to ever receive the award at that time, 1964. So again, above, what I already know, down below, what I learned. So these are things that I wasn't just picking, like there was a whole, like the book I read about him, there was a whole section about like when he married his wife and his kids and just how he died and all this stuff in there. And some of it I already knew, some of it was new, But I didn't just go and throw every single little fact that I gathered into this circle map. It was more like I'm thinking in my head, I'm kind of thinking into the future. Okay, I'm going to use these facts for my paper. And if I go back to my prompt, I'm writing about someone who has made the world a better place. My big thing here in the body is I'm explaining why I think that person is important. So when I'm coming up with all these facts, they're not just random. They're like in my head, I'm already thinking, okay, this is something that I could add to explain why I think he's important. So, him, like me knowing about his wife and when he married his wife, like I may not have known that, but that's not why I think he's important. So, I didn't add that to my circle here. All right, so page 8 is your job. You need to have this filled out. So, again, same thing, what you know, what you learned. And then tomorrow we're going to get into how we start piecing these together into some paragraphs. So we'll do that tomorrow. Then, all right, so we did that about gathering facts. We did about the preposition, the drawing activity. All right, science, EduSmart. Oh my gosh, I love EduSmart, but they changed it on me. I think, unless I was clicking the wrong thing. I don't know, but EduSmart, this did not work out very well today. So we kind of scratched it and we just kind of went and took our own notes to help us review for our test tomorrow. So here's what we did because I was not a fan of the new look of EduSmart. So we talked about some things that we see on a weather map. So L stands for low pressure. I always remember it, the L, I think lousy weather. So we've got clouds forming, precipitation, it's stormy, versus high pressure, the H, I think happy weather. And so this is very fair weather. It could still be rain, but it's not like storms and things like this up here that you think of. So lousy, happy, can kind of, remind you and help you remember what goes with what. And so the biggest part of the test, it has a lot of things about the water cycle. So we reviewed about the water cycle. And then we kind of did some word association. So like when we are talking about the sun, we are thinking, okay, if we're talking about the water cycle with the sun, we're immediately connecting that to the sun evaporating the water. Condensation, see those condensation forming those clouds. Up here, okay, so the sun evaporates the liquid water. So here, let's say this is our ocean here. We've got liquid water. The sun heats the water. The process is evaporation when it turns from a liquid to a gas. That gas is called water vapor. All of that rises. It starts to mix with things in the air like dirt, smoke, things like that. And it starts to, as it rises up, it's getting cooler and it starts to condense and come together. And when you've got millions and millions of these little things of water vapor coming together, they form a cloud. And that's that process condensation. So you're going from that gas and you're changing back into a liquid. Then when it gets too heavy, it falls as precipitation. Precipitation could be snow, hail, sleet. So like when we had the couple weekends ago when we had our snow, I saw all three of these happen. So first it hailed, then it was kind of like real wet. It was like rainy snow, like that's the sleet. And then it turned into eventually snow. And then rain. So depending on the temperature, you'll get different types of precipitation, but that is liquid falling from the sky. All right, then here, this little road down here shows this is a puddle. So let's say it rains, like it rained a little bit this morning, and let's say we've got a puddle that happens at 8 o'clock. Well, throughout the day, let's say the sun comes out, starts shining on my puddle, evaporation is going to happen, just like in the ocean or in a lake or a river, wherever you've got that water, and that sun is heating it, you're going to have that water going from that liquid to a gas. So you might see at the end of the day, if it's been real sunny out and it's no longer raining, you might see that puddle get really, really, looking a lot different. It might be a lot smaller. It might not even be there at all. And then this little, whatever this is that I drew over here, I don't know, excuse my drawings. I was just talking about how the water that we have here on Earth, it's going in that cycle. The water that we have originates from the ocean, and then it's going through this process, and it's just this big cycle that keeps continuing over and over and over. And this isn't just like okay, all right, sun, let's evaporate the water. All right, all the water go and rise up and form a cloud. Like this is happening, like different areas of the cycle are happening all around all the time. So just understanding that that cycle is just a continuous thing that's happening was what that was there at the bottom. Alrighty, so that's what we did. We reviewed. We've got a test tomorrow on weather and water cycle, and then make sure we've got some shadow things that we're doing coming up. So read these about some materials. I sent it in Seesaw about some materials that you're going to need for later on in the week. And then today for social studies, we looked at this, the Six Flags link, so you can click that and read about the 6 different flags that we have at our Capitol and different places around in Austin. And then here, Social Studies Week 20, we clicked on this, and Miss Klein actually, she accidentally put Monday on here, so we just went with it. So even though Monday was off, we went ahead and looked at it because I didn't want us to miss any of that information. So we looked at a couple of these letters and we answered some questions about them together. So we said that Matthew was feeling, so annexation is when Texas was deciding whether it was going to be a good idea to join the United States. And so they were debating kind of some of the reasons why it might be a good idea. And so he was feeling very hopeful that that would be a positive thing. And then we said debt has to do with owing a lot of money. And then we did this one together. It says, read the diagram. So Republic of Texas citizens are fearful of another attack from Santa Anna's Mexican army. So they had just been defeated at the Battle of Alamo. Now they're thinking, okay, here we have all this money that we owe. So we don't have money to go and strengthen our army or any, buy protection or anything like that. And so they were saying that if they joined with the United States, then they would have the protection from the U.S. Army. So that would be a possible solution to them worried about another attack. So we're kind of a day behind here, but that's okay. So we'll keep going. So tomorrow we'll do Tuesday, and we'll figure it out throughout the week. That was social studies. And then let's see, let me make sure I didn't miss anything. The ones that I needed to do the fluency test, did that. And I think that's it. All right, guys. Enjoy your evening. Thank you for watching.